All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of the Cubs DJ Show. I am Cubs DJ. Named the show after myself. Today's guest, the very first guest in the history of the show, is beer chugging aficionado, CHGO's very own Cody Delmendo. Let's give it up for Cody. Live studio
Wow.
audience. Wow, how about that for an intro, huh?
First episode, first guest. Like, this is an honor, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you for having me on. Hopefully you get better guests than me down the road. But to be the first one though, it's a special honor.
Well, good. Yeah, I feel very good about this. I obviously hope. I mean, who's the top? Who would be your top Cubs guest? Like, you obviously have a Cubs show. Like, who's your who's your white
We
whale?
we have like we have like a Google Doc with a list.
Okay.
And I won't lie, Steve Bartman is at the very top.
Oh, man, did you see the
It,
Marlins are doing a Steve Bartman like appreciation game?
Yeah, and then like a couple days later, they like said that was fake news basically, and I was
Mm.
like, yeah, it's fake news now because the internet destroyed you guys
Yeah,
for letting that graphic come out. Yeah, I was I don't think I've ever been so mad at some sort of marketing campaign or anything than that, just because Steve Bartman is someone that I mean, people just need to leave the guy alone. Like
I know.
I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old when that happened, and so as a 12-year-old, of course, I'm like with the crowd, like watching from my couch, and I see the crowd, and like as a 12-year-old, I was like with them. I was like, what is this guy doing? Blah blah blah. And then I grew
He's
up and
listening to the
realized that was
radio. He gets so
yeah,
mad
I
at him.
grew up. I grew up and realized that was really dumb.
Yeah.
And the fact that actual adults at Wrigley Field that night thought it was his fault, even though it was definitely Alex Gonzalez's fault for bobbling that routine ground ball that
Yep.
Mark Pryor gifted for him. I mean, the fact that people still talk about Steve Bartman to this day, honestly, in a way, bothers me so much just because, like, the dude got death threats and he's just a
Yes.
fan. Like, he's just like me and you go in the ballpark and watch the game, man. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that if I would have been in that scenario, I would have done the exact same thing probably.
I've
So,
actually recently
um,
watched the game again, and Dusty
how could
Baker
you do
must
that?
be paying, like, he must have like a media thing so he doesn't get flack because he leaves Pryor in like 6 batters too late. There's
Yeah.
no reason he's throwing like 120 pitches in that game.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy how the game was played back then where starters would throw that many pitches.
It was insane.
I can't bring myself to rewatch that game. I've never rewatched it just because it was until 2016 when the Cubs finally won. That game was just like at the top of my list of like most heartbreaking losses I've ever had to endure, even though they got to play the next night. But even as a 12-year-old, I knew what it was like to be a Cubs fan.
Oh,
Like
I know.
I didn't feel great about the game going into Game 7. You're 5 outs away from going to the World Series, and you blow you blow the game in that fashion. Like
Yeah.
it's very telling of what was coming. So I've never been able to rewatch that, but yeah. So the Marlins, when the Cubs go to face Miami here in what is it, like next week?
I think so.
Um, when they go to Miami, I'm hoping they win 20-0 every single game. I want blowouts and just run up the score and all of it
I
because
want
they
blood.
deserve it.
I want heads
Yeah,
to
yeah,
roll.
just exactly. So, um, yeah, man.
All right. Well, yeah, let's kick it off here. Quick little warm up. We'll just toss out some favorites. So, what's the favorite moment you've ever watched physically at Wrigley Field?
Oh, I mean, I've been to a lot of good games. I mean, I went to I don't know if you remember a lot of games from last year, but I remember the Cubs and Pirates playing in April last year, and the Cubs won like 20-0,
Oh yeah.
21-0. That team was not good, obviously, but it was a rare, like, warm April day, and it was a day game, and the Cubs won 21-0. That was like, as far as like, just pure enjoyment of
Yeah.
baseball and like you see your team win, that was awesome. But as far as like atmosphere and like the stakes, I remember going to I can't remember what day it was, but it was It was in September 2015, Cubs Cardinals. And as we all remember in 2015, especially in the second half, that Cubs team was just on fire. They couldn't lose to anyone. And I sat right, like not in the 100 section behind home plate, but in the 200 section behind home plate. I want to say like 215 section from 215, like row 1. And I saw Starlin Castro just hit 2 rockets into the stands in one of those games. I can't remember which day it was. I was a post grad. I didn't really
you didn't know
keep
where
track
you were
of what games I was going to when I did. Yeah, so that's one that I always remember because I don't think I've ever been in a better like atmosphere where you could just feel the electricity in Wrigley Field that day because it was before the World Series and everyone knew that team was coming and Cardinals were in town. It's September, playoff atmosphere. That's probably the closest playoff atmosphere I've ever got to like be a part of because I'm unfortunately I've never been to a playoff game.
Okay.
And so that's up there, but I don't know. There's something about that first game after like in 2021 when the Cubs allowed full capacity back for the first time after the pandemic. The Anthony Rizzo 14 pitch, like a bat that led to a homer. They Cubs Cardinals again. I think they trailed like 5-1 in that game at one point. And they came all the way back and won the game. And it was a beautiful summer June day. I sat in left field. Like, oh, that was just as far as like everything all together. And that one's pretty high up there for me. So I would say that one, but full atmosphere and the stakes and all that, like probably that 2015 game that I wish I could remember which day it was.
Favorite obscure Cubs player that you thought was going to fix the franchise growing up, but obviously didn't?
Corey Patterson.
Corey Patterson. I have I don't know if you're into cards. I have his rookie card in a PSA 6. So a 6 out of 10 is not a good score. I might be the only one in the entire world to have that card.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so young when Corey Patterson came up, and his whole thing from my memory was just health. When he was healthy, especially in 2003, he was one of the best players on the team. And then he couldn't stay healthy. And then he just never was able to get back to any sort of form of what he was in 2003. Felix PA is another one. I don't know if I necessarily thought he was going to save the franchise, but he was a dude that was highly touted and just completely flopped. So those are probably the two as like a kid. Whenever PA came up, I just graduated high school, so I was early 20s. So but yeah, I mean, there's a long list of those types of guys, but
such a long list.
I love where the organization is now in terms of developing talent and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, your Twitter bio says that Yadier Molina blocks you on Instagram. How did that come about?
It's my favorite part of my Twitter bio. So it was after the 2020 season. Like those 60 games, like that no one cares about, that no one even counts really towards whether a player was good or bad or is good or bad, whatever, right? Because it's too small of a sample size. And they were doing, it was like right around the time when they were giving out like the Gold Glove finalists or whatever. And Yadier Molina he wasn't named a finalist for the catching position in the National League that year. At least I don't believe so, at least. And that led him to going to his Instagram and just making some like long ass post with a couple pictures of him like being a winning player or whatever, however he wants to call it, and saying that he feels like he's being like screwed by MLB because he wasn't named a NL Gold Glove finalist for catcher. And we're talking about in a season where like it's 60 games, dude. Like no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And all I said, I couldn't help myself. I went into his comments and was like, "You're wrong." Like I didn't even call him a name or anything. I just said, "You're wrong, dude." Yep. Like just like that's all I said. And he blocked me. And from that moment on, I was like, "You're fucking soft if you're gonna block me because I said that."
Yes.
So I've I've really dove into the bit of just in a way, just like finding any reason to shit on that guy because it's not like I name called him or, even said that he was bad at baseball. I
Anything.
just think he's soft. Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's severely overrated. But that when a lot of people get really, really triggered by that,
Oh,
when
they
I
do.
say someone is overrated, that doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're bad. I don't think Yadier Molina was bad at baseball. You played catcher for 19, 20 years for one organization. You deserve some respect, no doubt, but so many people love to give that guy like all the credit for any of the Cardinals' success over the years, and I just don't understand it.
Me
I
either.
don't because the guy has never been able to like hit outside of like there's like a 5-year stretch in the early 2010s where that was probably the prime of his career where he was able to do everything defensively and offensively. But like if you're good for 5 years at if of a 20-year career and that apparently that means you're a Hall of Famer, then I could go through a long list of dudes that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't,
Yep.
man. Like that's just the way I look at it. So anytime anyone tells me he's he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, I really question like what the hell they're thinking. I really question like Cardinals fans on why they like. I understand why they like him because he'd been there forever and like it's kind of like that emotional leader that they had, whatever. But at the same time, like this just these to me, if he gets in the Hall of Fame, it's gonna be like 5-6 years after like after he's eligible to get in. Like he's no first ballot in my opinion, but the baseball writers love him, so I won't
God,
be
they love him.
surprised if he does get in. And that pisses me off because Barry Bonds isn't in and all these other dudes just because they use some freaking drugs to make themselves bigger.
When literally everybody did. Everyone.
Exactly. And it's just so mind-blowing to me. And I hate to shit on all the baseball writers because my good friend Ryan Herrera, who does CHGO Cubs with me, he just became part of like the Baseball Writers Association or whatever it's fucking called. And
it's like BBWATY or something like that.
yes. He's given his insight has given me a newfound respect for some of those people and how the voting process goes. And that's fine. But at the same time, like there's a lot of hypocrisy in it. I do think it comes down to like if some of these people just like the guy.
Yep.
And Yadier Molina is beloved by the national media, and I don't generally understand why outside of the fact that he just played forever and never really did anything wrong.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that you're a Hall of Famer though, bro. So
I'd say
to
he's
me, he's like the Frank Gore. He's like Frank Gore of baseball, man. Like Frank Gore played a long time in the NFL and somehow ended up being like the third or fourth highest rushing yards for running backs. And if you didn't know that and I just said that to you, you'd probably be a little surprised because Frank Gore, while he was very good, he wasn't like,
but he at least has stats.
Blowing our minds
stats. That's what pisses me off.
Like he wasn't blowing anyone's mind for 10 years. Like his best years were probably with the 49ers. No one was like getting it. Like no one thought he was the best running back in the league. Like I don't know. And that's how I feel about Yadier Molina. Like he played forever. He was very good at being a very good defensive catcher, but he never really hit his entire career. And the only reason his numbers might say that he did is just because he played forever. Like 2,000 hits. Oh yeah. Well, when you play for 20 years, you're gonna rack up.
You played 2,000 games. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like again, that's the story behind why Yadier Molina blocked me on Instagram. It's very dumb. It makes him look very soft, and I think it's hilarious. And in a way, like I'm a little sad that he retired now because it was just so easy to shit on him in the back half of his career because he was so bad.
Yes, and he would like balls were like sticking to his chest protector, and he just looked stupid all the time. I think he's my least favorite athlete in sports in the history of sports.
Aaron Rodgers is pretty high up there for me. I'm wearing my good friend Greg Braggs's new hoodie that we gave to CHGO diehards. So he's part of our CHGO Bears team, and I think we've had this conversation in our office about like who's the most hated like athlete for Chicago sports fans, and I think Aaron Rodgers still takes the very top of the list, but Yadier Molina is definitely like right there for me with him. Like it's 1A, 1B.
Yes. And it's like tough to argue Rodgers because I'm 28. In my adult lifetime, I've only seen the Bears beat him what, like twice, three times. He came back.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
came back from the like literal dead like two or three times. So
Right, yeah.
so if you were to throw out the first pitch at Wrigley, would you focus more on speed or would you focus more on like accuracy and just lob it in?
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I've never actually thought about throwing out the first pitch at Wrigley. I think that the Cubs should have me, Luke, and Ryan go out there and do it personally.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
agree.
the crowd would love it. Um, I'd probably go with the speed. I think I could get it there. Like
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be surprised if I airmailed it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think I'd want to show off the arm a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna lob it in there. I'm sorry. Like
Yeah. Yeah, you're like
better.
Rossi. If you guys need some bullpen help later on in the year, I got you.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably would be in my mind. Like all right, I got to show Rossi that hey, I'm sitting in left field. All you got to do is call me down. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'll warm up in the bullpen when you guys need an extra arm, or if you just want to don't want to use a position player. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, you're an
So
innings
like,
eater.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, just so if I show off the arm a little bit, maybe find a way to touch 80. You know,
Yeah.
maybe they give me a shot.
Yeah, touch 80, invent a pitch, and boom. September call up.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
All right. Rank these famous Codys. Cody Zeller, Cody Bellinger, and Cody Lindley, who played Jake Ryan, Hannah Montana's love interest in the show Hannah Montana.
Okay.
I actually
Well,
looked this up, and then on ranker.com, Cody Lindley was number one. Not to spoil anything.
wow.
So good
Okay.
luck.
Well, who was the first? Oh, Cody Zeller, the guy who
Yeah.
played at Indiana, right?
Yeah.
I'll put Bellinger number one because duh. And I'm an Illinois Fighting Illini fan, so I can't put a Hoosier number two on this list. So I'll put the other guy number two, and then put Cody Zeller three.
Like you don't know who Cody Lindley is. We're all huge fans. He was Jake Ryan
Huge
on Hannah
fan.
Montana, man.
I've been a lifelong fan since 45 seconds ago.
Dude, well, join the club. You have a daily gambling show. What is your favorite bet that you've ever won? Whether it's a crazy backdoor cover or a huge underdog that you were real confident in.
Okay, so this is before CHGO existed. It was last January. Yeah, it was last January. So a few months before CHGO existed. We launched in March. So I had a $40 free bet in my DraftKings account, and you know, when you get those kind of free bets, you just do some wild shit and see if it hits. And I got something at 30-1 on a Bulls Wizards game. It was a 5-leg parlay at 30-1. And it hit. I actually posted about it on my personal Instagram account. My girlfriend took this video and picture of me, and I won like $1,200 on this free bet. Like it's probably the best bet I've ever won. As far as like the most money I've ever won. I had another time I had like a $25 free bet. I put it on a first touchdown score for a Monday Night Football game. It was the Buffalo Bills and someone else, but I put it on Zach Moss. It was like a running back, and he was at like plus 12 or plus 1,300. $25 on. I think I won like $350, something like that. I don't know if the math adds up there correctly, but those are probably like the two bets that I've ever won that I'm like, man, I need to just retire from this shit now because like
this is life-changing money.
Kinda. The real handicappers out there in Vegas, man, there's something. I don't know how they survive, because gambling is just it doesn't make sense sometimes.
Nope.
So when you celebrate the wins, and when the losses come, you're just like, all right, just in time to get hot again. That's the mentality you gotta have.
Have you ever watched Uncut Gems?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love that movie actually. And I have like a whole folder of memes from that movie in my phone. So yeah, That's it's not my favorite Adam Sandler movie, but it's in the back half of his career, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much just Anxiety the movie. It's the most anxious
Yeah.
gambling filled thing of all time.
So like the degeneracy in the movie though is just it's pretty funny in my opinion. Just the
Yeah.
way that I look at gambling and stuff and how sports betting has really changed the landscape of sports and stuff. It's crazy. I'm really to put a Cubs spin on it. I'm really excited to go to the DraftKings Sportsbook that they're opening up at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Cubs fans are very like against it because it's not part of like beautiful historic Wrigley Field, like that's been there for over 100 years and stuff like that. But it's just the way that sports are going now.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't be surprised in 5 years that every ballpark or sporting venue has a sports book in it. You know, whether it's outside it like Wrigley or if it's inside it like at the United Center
Yeah.
for Bulls and Blackhawks. You know what I mean? So it's just the landscape of sports, and the Cubs fans who don't like it, they just don't understand where sports betting is going. And
Yeah.
I've tried to explain it to some, and some people just think Tom just wants to continue to take all our money. And while yeah, part of that is true, my hope is that the money they get from that actually does go back into the team or whatever. And it's hard to believe that or have faith in that, considering they started Marquee and then they sold off all the core and, really were really cheap for a few years. And at least from the outside looking in, it didn't look great, obviously, right? It's hard to defend the front office and Ricketts for some of that stuff. But I will say that they've kind of turned the corner, at least
Yeah.
it feels like it right now. It feels like they've turned the corner, and it's not taken as long as many people thought,
Yeah.
at least right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna
So.
blindly fall in love with this team until they break my heart, and then just deal with it then.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. The fair expectation for this team right now at 9-6, as we're recording this, I mean, I still think a wild card's very, very doable. Like I know I love watching the Cardinals fall right now, but I know they're going to figure it out eventually. And the top 2 starters for Milwaukee just got hurt. Who knows? Also, I going into the year, I thought maybe Milwaukee would be trying to shop Corbin Burns anyway. And I know Pittsburgh has been kind of an eye-opening team to start the year, but with their best player getting hurt, I don't know how much further they'll be able to make it. But they are making it fun. Like for the last few years, like a lot of people have shit on our division, and now the NL Central is becoming super competitive. So, I think that if things keep going the way they are, I could see. I wouldn't like. It sounds wild right now, but if things continue to go the way they are, like maybe 2 NL Central teams get in on the wild card with whoever wins the division. I mean, I don't think that will happen, but you just look at the standings right now. Like, I'm not like after playing the Dodgers this past weekend, I know they didn't spend a lot of money this offseason, and they didn't. They got some injuries with Bueller being out until September and stuff. Like, will they be able to tread water, and will they, this Dodgers team doesn't look like one that's going to win 100 games this year.
Yeah, they don't.
And the Padres are really good. The Diamondbacks have been a very good team. Yeah, like it's just there's a lot of like from to this point, there's been a lot of teams that I'm just like, man, like they're not playing like they should be. And like as much as like all these teams have spent a lot of money and stuff like that, like you can do that, but we've seen in the past teams that do that and it not really particularly work out. So I think right now the Cubs, you have to feel really good about them the way they're playing. They have a lot of young guys who haven't even made their debuts yet that have high ceilings, I think, on top of the roster that they have with Swanson and Horner and Happ and Say Suzuki, Cody Bellinger, turning it back the clock a little bit to 2019 finally because he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the starting rotation has just been so fun to watch. So I'm optimistic about the team, but I think that I think if you just put the expectation, you just set your expectation at a wild card for now, like I don't think you'll necessarily be like hurt. You'll just be like, if it doesn't work out, you'll just be a little sad about it. But
Yeah.
I came in the season with like wild card. They have a good enough roster to where they can do it. So am I necessarily surprised at what's happening? No. Am I surprised that they've won 3 consecutive series against 3 teams that are like playoff contenders? Yes.
Yes.
I didn't expect it to be this fun this fast.
Yeah.
So
I guess I mean, you sort of already answered it, but last question. The Cubs make the playoffs this year if blank. So like what's like the one main thing that you think might teeter their playoff hopes?
if Cody Bellinger keeps playing like he has been in April. I think Cody Bellinger is the I don't want to say X factor, but just like the big piece, because you're going to get offense from Horner, Swanson, and Happ, but Bellinger does all those things that all 3 of those guys do, but has really good power and doesn't strike out too. Yeah. At least he hasn't been. Like he's looked as anything like 2019 Cody Bellinger with the Cubs so far this year, that it's been really hard for me to just like keep my hope and my expectations like at a tempered level for him. He's been that good. And so if he's able to do that all season, then yeah, I think this team's a playoff team. Now, obviously, if he does this and the Cubs find themselves not in it in July, I could see them moving him. But if he continues to play like this, then like I don't know how this team isn't going to be it if this team is going to pitch the way it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason. Like if they aren't in the playoff race come July, maybe the pitching really fell apart or something. But man, the way this team's pitching right now, and with the way that they've shown to be able to score runs, you got to feel really good. Yeah. Especially when, again, they still have the kids like Mervis and Morel and, Velasquez, who had that huge game against the Mariners the other day. And, even the pitchers, you got Cam Sanders, who's going to be a stud in the bullpen, I think. And Jeremiah Estrada. And then there's a few guys in Double-A too that have high ceilings, like Daniel Palencia and Jordan Wicks and Ben Brown, and like obviously PCA, but like a lot of those guys I don't think we'll see until the very end of the year, if anything. But like I keep telling people you buy stock on this team now, because if they keep playing like this and it's June, then like people are going to be caught on by then, and like don't be the last one. Like be the first one now. Like they're playing really good baseball, and I give Jed Hoyer a lot of credit, man. I do. I really do, because he set his vision out there, and it's working. Like I've really enjoyed watching the team, and I've really enjoyed seeing how Dustin Kelly's been able to help some of these hitters who were, you didn't know what you're going to get. I mean, Patrick Wisdom's been on fire as well, and I credit Dustin Kelly a lot, the hitting coach, in that. And and he probably has a big part in Cody Bellinger getting back to like some sort of form as well. So again, I'm riding this wave right now. You had me on the podcast when the Cubs are 9-6 in April and are playing. Yeah. They've won 3 consecutive series. They won 10-1 against the Athletics last night. Like this was, if you wanted a real positive Cubs podcast for your first episode, I was the perfect person to have on, man. I'll sit here and just I'm fired up right now all night.
I might hang up and then like run through a brick wall after this. I'm jacked up.
Yeah.
All right, Cody.
Yeah, no, it's fun, man.
Well, that's it, man. That's episode 1 of the Cubs DJ show, Cubs Desk Jockey. You can find Cody at CHGO. You write, you do podcasts, you've obviously video content. Anywhere else or anything else that you want to plug?
No, yeah, just on Twitter is Cody_CHGO. It's the same thing on Instagram and on TikTok. CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We're just hit 29,000 subscribers, so we're trying to hit 30K soon. And yeah, man, if you are ever in our YouTube channel, like watching our live show, just let me know. I'll shout you out.
Definitely. So. Well, thanks, man. You have a great night. I'm still jazzed up, so I'm definitely going to lose sleep over this. Thank you very much for coming on, and we will see you guys in the next episode.